Welcome to 5-Star Weekly. We own Messi, and Guzan is playing out of his mind. What universe are we living in? We're getting all that and more coming up. Before we get into it, become part of the notification squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button on YouTube. Welcome to the show, 5-Star fam. I'm AJ, and this is Michael. And Atlanta United have advanced to the next round of the MLS Cup playoffs. We have beat Messi and Inter Miami by just some sheer will and against every single odd. I mean, it is inexplicable. But before we get into the review, let's give our shouts out to our loyal Patreon fam. You guys know who you are, but specifically Gavin, Jordan, Niall, Andrew, Chris, and Nick. You guys are legends. But let's get into the 3-2 win in Game 3 at Chase Stadium. And it started auspiciously. That is a hard word to say, but yeah, it was not the best start. And Inter Miami were able to get that first goal. We won't get like super duper as deep into it as we did in the post-match live streams, but definitely, as far as the lineup, it didn't change too much. You had Dax McCarty in there as one of the starters in midfield. Unfortunately, Brooks Lennon with his injury, he was out for this match and probably for the rest of the playoffs. Ronaldo Hernandez is in his place, and it looks like a little, kind of mix of, four-man in the back, but also with wing backs, sort of with Saba playing as one of the wing backs. So, it is with Saba taken a little bit away from goal. It takes a little bit away from his efficiency, his efficacy, if you will, as well. It's I think he's always best served playing closer to goal, but he did a admirable job in the wingback position. But Inter Miami kind of pretty much, it's that starting the match strong, and it's not something that LA United have been able to do too much, unfortunately. But for some reason, the record that we have, just when we don't score first, it's out the window in the playoffs. It's inexplicable. I mean, we have been bad when we've gotten scored on first. But for you, Michael, just kind of sum up your kind of just general feeling from kind of maybe going into this match, and then of course the result of this match.
Nervous was the general feeling. It wasn't as nervous as I probably thought I would be going into the second game based on what I saw in the first, which they really weren't able to kill Atlanta in the first game. I didn't really think, there was going to be anything that was going to, there was nothing in that game that I thought Miami really put us to the sword. Second game, obviously we turned things around. Third game, going into it, still nervous, but again, things had shifted by then. There was belief. There was still some magic left in the team. It seemed like, we had an absolute shot to win this thing based on the fact that Miami just couldn't find a way to, even when they won, to really decisively beat us and make us feel like we just don't belong there. I was waiting for that to happen. When you have these gargantuan legendary players on their team, you're expecting to have to be made to feel that you don't belong on the same pitch as them. That kind of stuff never happened in the series. So they were never able to really psychologically put us to bed. We kept around. We never gave up. And then come the third game, the belief was there. The cracks in Miami were revealed in Game 2 fully, and we were able to exploit them, to great effect in the third game. Granted, still was nervous though, because you're going up against players who can turn a game on its head instantly in a moment. So it really, for me, came down to, do these players show up? Do they just grab the game by the scruff and just completely own it? Or, do we just hold them at bay and with grit and determination, we find a way through? And luckily, it was the latter.
Indeed. Yeah. I mean, yeah, well recapped for sure. I mean, for me, going into the match, I was oddly zen. I was not very much in a mode of worry. I felt like, okay, well, the house money that we were playing with definitely kind of felt that way, where it's like, okay, we if we get past Inter Miami, I mean, it is just, it's something that it is inexplicable. It is not expected. For me, I was like, okay, I was resigned to, okay, if we go out, it's okay. But it was definitely everything but. I had a 2-2 draw and us going to penalties. I don't know if I could have handled those penalties, actually. I don't think many people probably could have, because that, it's like we've been doing so much better in penalty shootouts lately, but it still is, it's just not something that...
That's the thing, right? That's a really good point that you say, we've been doing better in penalty shootouts. It was one shootout. These games that we've been playing and we were doing well in, it's only been a handful. You compare this to the season, and you still think in the back of your mind, oh man, this is all just a fluke, and we're going to come crashing down next game back to reality. But somehow, it hasn't happened.
Mm-hmm. And it's very much, Inter Miami are a team that likes to play with the ball. For Atlanta United, we shoot it. And it's been the story all series, and likely will be for much of the games going forward, is, we're going to find a way to be direct, find a way to play route one, or play it over the top, play it through, and essentially, just kind of, not really put an importance on trying to play through the midfield. And I mean, it's been super effective. Basically any of these goals and every one of the chances, more or less comes on the counter. And I mean, it's just, we were deadly. We look like we have belief. And even though Jamal Thiare missed that first one, hit the post, after we went down, it wasn't too much longer after that Rojas goal that Atlanta United found a moment of magic. And Dax McCarty, he sent a superb ball pretty much forward. And Alexei Miranchuk, he was there, where he was able to slip him in. And Thiare was able to hammer it home. And 19th minute, make it 1-1. And a couple minutes later, it's just, like, who would have thought? It was just dreamland for us. But McCarty sent another ball vertical, and essentially as well, Miranchuk, he went through two Miami defenders, and he tapped it one touch out of the outside of his foot to Thiare running onto it. And then, he was able to put it away. It's just... 2-1, 21st minute. I mean, it's just everyone is probably in this incredulous mood because it just is unbelievable. And Thiare, he did mention after the match, tonight, I wasn't expecting it. Quote, lately, I hadn't been very lucky with my goal scoring opportunities, but everything went great tonight. It's a fantastic memory for myself and for the team. And I mean, there was, unfortunately, in the second half, it looked like, they might have gotten an equalizer, but there was a massive stop. There was also another ball that went into the back of the net that VAR did intervene, and so there was a goal pulled back as well. But yes, Messi did eventually find that equalizer with his head, no less, which on the back post, annoying. That's something that we still need to stamp out. It's Atlanta United's defense hasn't been great. There's the number of shots that Brad Guzan has had to face. It's worrisome for sure. Not sustainable. But, at the very least, if he's playing like this, okay, yeah, we pretty much have to just outscore the opposition. And, yeah, that we did. And, it was pretty much where, Pedro Amador, he was able to find some space on that left flank. And,
again.
Yeah, absolutely outrageous. I think it's his 8th or 9th, no, it's his 10th assist for the club since arriving this summer. That's insane. Double digits already. And basically he was able to float that into that back post, and Bartosz Slisz coming out of nowhere, an RKO out of nowhere, and basically it puts them down for the count. LA United, I mean, it is there is this contentious moment, of course, where a Miami player does go down in the box. He was standing untouched by anybody, and then he goes down in the box. There's no obligation from LA United players to play it out if there isn't a head injury. But yet, it seems like Tata Martino wanted that call for at least LA United to play it out and to be sportsman, to have sportsmanship with it. But I think it's one of these things, in my opinion, it wasn't a big enough injury, and he found his way into the box to pretty much lie down. I don't think we had any obligation, but
yeah, it was a no contact injury. And the guy, just put this in context for a second and remember what happens when this kind of thing happens on the opposite side, when Miami has the ball and they're in the attack and a player goes down near the box, they're slashing the box. Messi just chips the ball right over him against Nashville, then goes and tries an attack. That's not kicking out of bounds. So you can't have it and not have it at the same time. So yeah, I mean, I think we did everything perfectly fine. There was nothing out of, and it's just, it stinks for them even more because the fact that they pretty much, created that karma by what they did with Brad Guzan. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We haven't gotten to that bit, which, with Messi's goal, there was a bit of a fracas, if you will, and definitely
row for our English-speaking friends.
Exactly. But essentially, Brad Guzan, after Messi scores, well, he goes and fetches the ball, but apparently there's a small little bump from Guzan onto Messi. Campana pretty much levels him into the net, and Luis Suarez is there taunting him, and it's just crazy. It's one of these things where if that happened anywhere else on the pitch, that's a yellow. And some people were maybe claiming and clamoring for a red. I don't know if it's a red, but I think at the very least there should have been a card for Campana. And
because it was outside of the game. It had absolutely no place in any play or anything. There was no tactics about it. It was just a guy losing his cool or trying to get an advantage, and psychologically takes him out of the game by pushing this guy, basically being a schoolyard bully. I don't want my kids watching this and seeing that and go and have it not be punished, and then them think that that's normal and okay behavior. It's wildly unprofessional behavior. That's just inappropriate. So I'm completely, it's annoying he didn't get a card, but at the end of the game, they kind of got, what was coming to him. So,
Yeah, we got the last laugh for sure. And it was one of those things too where, the ref kind of seemed to reprimand Guzan more so than
they told
Miami.
him to calm down.
Right, which, I mean, we'll get to his thoughts, Brad Guzan's thoughts on it as he was on Major League Journeyman Dax McCarty's podcast. And yeah, so it's so meta, obviously, with all of that. There's, we're going to be talking about a podcast in this podcast. And so, but essentially, it's inexplicable. It is one of those moments that infuriates every Atlanta United fan because, I mean, if there isn't a large example of, the Messi effect, the special treatment that Inter Miami definitely get, then that is it. But, Then
we can talk about the fouls, too. The one that was on Messi and the one that was on us.
Yeah, I mean, talk about it. Go for it.
Yeah, man, the one against Messi was I think Rios just was a tiny little touch against him. Yeah. And of course, Messi was looking for anything. And then he goes down. I would be like, that's basically a flop, but you can technically, by the letter of the law, say that it's a foul because he touched him. But there was like nothing in it. I could have stood on my feet after that touch from Rios and kept playing, but he was looking for it. So that was a bit of I was worried, that was kind of something that everyone was worried about. Messi going down close to in around the box just to get that set up to do that shot that he's known for and just put our dreams, away. So luckily he was not able to get through the wall. Our wall came up big multiple times in this series. The free kicks from Miami just weren't able to find purchase when they usually are just so deadly. I mean, we can also talk about, Messi scored in this, and he just wasn't really his superstar self in this series. So, really, really fortunate for us that for whatever reason he couldn't get the mojo going. He did well. He still did well, don't get me wrong, but he needed the rest of his team to step up, and they just weren't there for it.
Right, and it very much is where it seems like they're top heavy defensively. Yeah, they have a lot to be desired in some areas, and I think we were able to exploit that. Which, the ball in behind, the pace, but also drawing their defense in a little bit. I think really just allowed us to stretch the game, and yeah, I mean defensively we also had to come up with big moments. Brad Guzan with a save off of the line, another save where he gets shot at his chest, and he flexes at the really like everybody, the cameras, Inter Miami, like it's an incredible moment for him. I think he pretty much, if there's a almost like a wrestling moment, that's a wrestling moment. It's like he is playing to the crowd, and it's like that that shout before you pretty much do your finisher. And
yeah,
I think it's pretty much that Noah Cobb as well off the line. I mean, it's just gritty stuff from LA United. And FEA indeed. We have been absolutely crushing that saying because no one believed. I mean, hell, we didn't believe. It's if you were to believe, I mean, I think you would be Nostradamus. But
and this is one of those outliers in statistics and things like that. But that's why, I mean, for all you people studying like any hard sciences like physics or chemistry or something like this, where you have like sigma 6 like level results in terms of your statistical significance, psychology and human behavior is not like that. It is very different, and things can get very varied, and you don't have those types of results. So this is a good example of this is why we play the games, why they're interesting, because in any given day another team could theoretically win, and kind of felt like us that day.
Right. And that's what's crazy is, this is probably the toughest test for us in the playoffs. And, I mean, theoretically, it gets easier, but hopefully we don't play
like
down.
A cup final.
Yeah. And hopefully, we don't play down to competition. But McCarty was quoted after the match saying, we've been essentially playing knockout games that could potentially end a season for a month. A lot of teams could fold in that situation, but for whatever reason, we're rising to the occasion. Tonight is just such a great example of that, and such a fantastic reward for the hard work of so many people. And I'm really pleased for everyone. I mean, yeah, it's just a lot of people maybe pointing out that this was the biggest upset in MLS history, which, I mean, for a 73-win team and a team that had 34 less points than them in Atlanta United, and were able to upset them in the first round, it's definitely up there. I mean, if not it, but as far as for Atlanta United, is this within the pantheon of the best win in Atlanta United history? I mean, obviously, so many games that in the 2017, 2018, 2019 years that are very memorable, very big wins, some scalps in there too. But yeah, but where does this place within your pantheon?
I feel like I could make my pantheon a pentaveret, so I could pick 5. So I would say MLS Cup. Where's that? MLS Cup champs right there, number 1.
That's number 1. Yeah.
I think I'd say Open Cup, number 2. I might actually say this win, I guess game 2, the win against, I mean, I kind of want to see the series as like a game, but you can't really do that. So, I mean, the second game was insanity and amazing, but the third game sealed the series, so I guess I'd go with that one. So that game, the meaning and the everything involved with that game really, I think, could almost be like considered a cup in and of itself. So I might put that actually as number 2. Then the Open Cup, number 3. And then I'll say Campeones Cup, number 4, because beating America in that game was absolutely sensational. Can't forget that game. And then I feel like maybe the snow game might actually get a mention here for the number 5 if I had to choose a 5th one, because that's just a hyper memorable game as well.
I mean, obviously, yeah, like other games that were big blowout wins too. The 7-1 against New England Revolution could have a shout.
Yeah, but it's what it means. It's not just the numbers on the paper. Yeah,
for sure. So, yeah, for me, I'm kind of going to rank it in the importance of kind of the trophies. Even though, yeah, you were mentioning after the game in the stream that this was in a trophy in itself. But I think it's this. I think MLS Cup final is just, yeah, it means the most, and definitely the most emotional win in the sense that Atlanta United finally kind of broke a curse for the I guess men's clubs or teams for sports in Atlanta after a very long time. So definitely was a very momentous win. I think that U.S. Open Cup win as well, I think fully agree with you there. But that Campeones Cup, I think, is that number 3 for me. I think it just, it yields a trophy. And I think there were a lot of really fun moments in that match too that just kind of blew our minds. So yeah, and then plus I feel like there's some shame for Inter Miami and Messi, but I feel like there was way more shame for Club America.
It's true. I mean, if you look at it in terms of like a feelings differential, yeah, Miami's not going to care that much that they lost, at least those players. But the whole country of Mexico practically burned down because of that game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see where you're going with that point.
Right. They basically laughed at Club America, and yeah, that's for shame. That is how dare they lose to an American team?
The first losers in a cup competition.
Right. Yep. But and then I think the game 3 win is 4. It's just if there was any pressure or the nervousness, I felt it within the game, and definitely in stoppage time, because I was just really hoping that the ref would just blow the whistle, because it just seemed like an agonizing eternity. But game 2, I think, is that fifth one. What did you call it? Like the 5. What did you?
The Pentaveret. Yeah,
Pentaveret.
That's 5.
My God, what a great word there. But yeah,
it's a
so
great TV show on Netflix.
Okay.
With Mike Myers.
Mike Myers. Oh boy, I didn't realize he was still doing some stuff. But either way, you know who's still doing some stuff? Brad Guzan, 9 saves in this match, and he is only the second player in MLS history with multiple games with at least 8 saves in a single postseason, joining Matt Pickens of the Chicago Fire in 2006. So it's been quite some time. That's 18 years. That's kind of crazy.
He's just, it's amazing. I can't believe what he's able to. I mean, no one expected him, first of all, to come back to what he was before his injury, like realistically speaking. And then not only did he come back, but he's arguably better than he was at his best with us. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean, because it's also this. I think he's gotten better with his feet as time has gone on. And yeah, I think when we play other goalkeepers, you see the stark difference with the ball at the feet of the goalkeeper versus Brad Guzan. It's I think I just feel way more assured, and yeah, he might give it away here and there, but he's been kind of playing sweeper keeper as well. He's coming off his line. His
confidence is through the roof. I mean, he's showing off his techers at some points too, sending guys to the shadow realm. Like I'm like, what is this? Where did this Brad Guzan come from? This confidence is just that's what's propelling him forward.
Yeah, indeed. And so it's a beautiful thing, and long may it continue. But yeah, so that wraps up the match review, and it gets us into the news. And the first bit of news is Simon Evans. He tweeted out that Jordi Alba, he mentioned about his feelings about the MLS playoff format and how it's not fair. He said, quote, "We were the most consistent team. We broke the points record. We had a good season, but what we wanted was to win these playoffs. I think this format is a bit unfair. It's been done for many years, but I think it should be the champion of one conference against the champion of the other to make it as fair as possible." Kind of hilarious. Because, yeah, I mean, he's basically saying, okay, well, the playoffs shouldn't really be playoffs, essentially. It should just be, one team on each side that had the best record play against each other. Yeah, MLS ain't ever going to do that. They have a cash cow here, and they're going to milk it as much as they can. But unfortunately, they didn't play well enough, and Messi and Inter Miami shat the bed. And so, yep.
It's also the United States. United States fans like playoffs. It's a thing that has always been here, and it always likely will be. And I think it's something that makes our league special. And I think it's a nice thing to have. I like them. I'm a big fan of them, and I would hate to see them go. So yeah, sucks to suck, Jordi Alba. Just don't turn your team into a cup team instead of a season team if you're that upset about it.
Right. And it's that, I mean, it's like, he is a legendary defender, one of the best ever to play his position. But, I mean, he's just wrong here. That's just, with all due respect.
I mean, we don't go to Spain and be like, you guys should just do what the United States does. You know what I mean? It's just silly to do that. Like, you came here, so you play our game. That's the way it works here. So
yeah. And it's also this. They had 3 chances to put us away. They didn't do the job. So ultimately, it's, if it was only one game and then we beat them, okay, yeah, you can maybe see.
I would agree with him at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's, 3 games I mean, it pretty much shows who the best of that is, and you
And
just had
two
the
at home.
Yeah, 2 at home, and it's also this. It's not like this was a game on aggregate either. You know, this wasn't a game where or a series on aggregate where basically, you know, it's two games and you had to score the most goals. Like that can be kind of unfair because of how teams set up during those. But essentially, clean slates on every single one of these games. I mean, it's just straight up like we did the business. But Charles Boehm on Twitter also mentioned with Brad Guzan, he had said this post game about his clashes with Luis Suarez, and yeah, he said basically, quote, "I completely understand that he's an all-time villain and why, but you better believe Suarez wouldn't have had a brain fart like Avila's and his defensive colleagues in that moment." But essentially, Guzan, he said, quote, "No, listen, it's two competitors on the field, man. I tell you guys all the time, right? When we talk on the training ground, it's about believing, it's about competing, it's about putting everything you have into it, you know. And throughout those, listen, he's a competitor, he's a warrior, he's not a good guy to play against. I take that back. I don't want to say like, quote unquote, good guy, right? He's a guy you probably want on your team because he's a winner. He does whatever it takes to win. So he's a guy you want on your team, and when you have to face him, it's difficult because he does a lot of stuff that is difficult to deal with throughout 90 minutes. And fair play to our guys because you can't give them a yard, man. And they were able to, for the most part, keep them contained, and we were able to keep him in areas that he probably didn't want to be in. So, yeah, I mean, it's showing respect towards Suarez. Even though, yeah, you know, he is a bastard to play against. I mean, he essentially went down as much as he could. There was a shadow, pretty much foul in the box that he probably should have been booked for in this match because, yeah, I don't know how he went down. He basically was just looking for something. And, you know, it very much should have been a card for simulation. But yeah, I mean, it is, you know, one of these things where, yeah, you know, Atlanta United, I think the mentality was just superior to what Miami was putting out there. I think we had this massive belief that, okay, we're the bogey team for Miami, and we can, you know, figure them out. We don't need the ball. You know, and there really might have been some sort of, you know, drawing on previous experience with Rob Valentino being an assistant coach for Tata Martino. You know, just kind of knowing that Martino's gonna be stubborn. He's not going to change too much, except for, yeah, when backs are against the wall, when he thinks that, you know, he knows he can't win. And he has to figure out a different way, but it wasn't that case yet. They had beaten us, so you know there was still this confidence. I think that they could just play through us. But
yeah, I mean, you have Messi on your team. You're always gonna believe that, like, yeah. And you'll be right more than not. So it is what it is with that, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
I also want to comment on what you said about, like, you know, Brad just taking the high road in that. You know, when he was in his words, what he was saying on the podcast and other things, like, and at this press conference that we got asked about, I think it was today as well. Like, I like that he's being professional and a gentleman about the whole thing and just not really casting too much shade. But it's like, that's also what you do when you win, because it makes it even more unpalatable for the opponent when they hear it. They're like, oh, he's also rubbing it in a bit in that, like, oh, he's not only did he beat me, but he's better than me as a person too.
Because yeah, he very well could have gone the opposite and just you know, okay, we beat you, you can't do anything about it, and I'm gonna talk some trash. But he took the high road, and I mean that's just exemplary as Brad Guzan in his time here. Like, he's just ever the classy one. But But yeah, so moving on from that, so 7 Atlanta United players have received call-ups to their respective national teams. Luis Abram, Luke Brennan, Stan Gregerson, Saba Lapjanice, Alexei Miranchuk, Efrain Morales, and Bartosz Slisz. They're all taking part in this international window that runs from November 11th through the 19th. And yeah, the semifinals will be, of course, against Orlando City, the top seed left in the Eastern Conference at number 4. And yeah, we will be playing at Inter & Co Stadium there. So, but yeah, no longer Exploria. But yeah, they keep changing the name, and it's kind of throwing me off. But yeah, the MLS Cup playoffs will return on Sunday, 3:30 p.m. for Atlanta United. That kickoff time on Sunday, November 24th. So, yeah, a weird time, definitely, for sure. But, you know, it's hopefully that won't throw off too many people or the players. Yeah, it should be. I mean, Orlando is just kind of always the same kind of temperature, I feel like. So it's not going to be too crazy as far as the weather. But yeah, so Garth Lagerwey, he spoke in an interview with Steak Shapiro on 92.9 The Game. And yeah, kind of mentioned some very interesting tidbits that, yeah, mentioned as well. Rob Valentino is still a candidate for the head coach job. And he also said that Atlanta United, quote, wasn't going to win anything, quote, with, quote, some of the personalities, quote, they had at the start of the season, hence the changes. And he kind of went specifically into saying, look, we were not going to win anything with that group, with the personalities in that locker room and the mentality that we had. We were not going to win any titles, and we knew it. And so we had to maximize the resources that we could take out of that group, and that's when we moved on from some players. At the end of the day, we got in, we have a chance, and now we're taking advantage of it with a group that believes in itself and is much better put together. And that's a real credit to Rob Valentino and his staff and the players. And yeah, we had some folks who weren't committed to being in Atlanta long term. It's as simple as that. And they were looking for their next move. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of pro sports. There's no emotion behind that. But they didn't want to be here long term, so we needed to get guys here who were committed. Very, very interesting stuff. How do you take that?
Clearly he's talking about 2 players, Thiago Almada and Yorgos Giacomakis. To what degree is, you know, do they not want to be here or whatever, kind of sap the mentality of the team? I don't know which one did what or what have you, what degree. But the thing is we knew Almada always had eyes for Europe, and he was always going to do that. We always knew that. So it'd be weird if the players in the locker room were kind of miffed by that or annoyed or / disappointed or something like that, because that was always on the menu, right? It was always to be expected. But Yorgos is what puzzles me, because that, I think, the team seeing their leading striker lose his mentality, you know, in terms of a positive one for the team, start to look past the team to be like, where can I go next? Maybe I don't want to be here anymore. That can do a lot of damage mentally, I think, because why can that versus Thiago do so much damage? Because he's not the one who's supposed to be leaving. He's supposed to be franchise player, Jose Martinez replacement, striker here for a long time, to be the new face of Atlanta United. And then the players start seeing as he's trying to nope out of here. Yeah, I mean, I think that could torpedo a season for sure. Right. Thiago leaving, not so much. I think that's kind of, everyone kind of knew he's a hired gun mercenary to be here, you know, for when he was. And honestly, he was here for a little longer than we thought, which, you know, kind of cool for us. I'm not going to be upset about it. I just don't think him as a player, I feel like can't really poison the team. But I feel like a player like Yorgos probably could, and he probably did.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying. I think it's also it seems a little like revisionist history a little bit here too, where Garth Lagerwey, I mean, mentioning that, okay, yeah, these players who are committed to being here, sure, but it's also, him coming into the season and saying, these are the goals, this is what we are looking to achieve, and I mean, surely he would have known kind of what was I guess the ethos of these players before the season started. And I think maybe it soured, sure, but it just seems a little convenient to say that yeah, okay, Yorgos Giacomakis, because in the torrid stretch that we were going through, well, yeah, we can just kind of say that it's on them. It's on these players that are outgoing. When I think it's very much the players that are still on the team as well. And for them to not have produced, I think, is still something that marred our season. Like, make no bones about it. We didn't have a good season. Like, the majority of the season was miserable. But that's what is making this playoff run just so much fun, is because we knew that, okay, yeah, like this should not be happening, but somehow it is. And that's really, I think, the feeling that we should be, I think, gathering as fans. I get it from their end. They want to have this kind of monster mentality, and okay, yeah, like, these players are just really committed and really strong in their belief, and confidence is sky high. I think, there's some things, there's some spin here, but I'm not going to rag, Garth Lagerwey too hard about this, but I feel like, I feel like there should be a little bit more transparency, a little bit with this. I think this is what I appreciate about Rob Valentino, is that he won't mince words. It won't be corporate speak. He absolutely will let you know what's on his mind. And, I don't know if it's exactly the case here. And maybe it's okay that it isn't. But I think that's how I feel about it. I don't think it's something that maybe the majority of fans, if they read into this, are going to be like completely like, okay, yeah, Lagerwey, okay, 100% everything you're saying. I feel like there's some things here that are being shrouded, with just corporate speak that, yeah, if you're wise to it, it's just, yeah, I don't really appreciate some of the aspects, but yeah, have any thoughts on that?
I do, but they're like incomplete thoughts. Like, I don't really know like how to talk about it in any kind of real sense, so I'm not sure. But I just some like musings I'm having about thinking about this stuff, like when Garth says, yeah, we were never gonna with that. How can, so like either it soured, like you said, things just didn't kind of go in the way the team wanted, and Yorgos just kind of went, things are not going great, maybe I'm gonna hop out of here or whatever. And he gets an absolutely sensational offer from Cruz Azul, which no one expected. And my whole thing was, I thought, we were completely blindsided by this offer that we can't say no to for Yorgos. I didn't also think that Garth was also already under the opinion that we need to move on from him. That's what I was not connecting. But if that's the case, I mean, it's really lucky then that Cruz Azul came in with that offer and we didn't just offload him to somewhere else, because he was apparently, we weren't going to win anything with these guys. Like, and clearly they identified Yorgos as part of that problem. So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of lucky that Cruz Azul offer came in that was so wealthy. Whereas, someone else didn't come in and we just kind of had him move on, and everyone then is left to speculate about, well, why did we just sell our quote unquote star striker for not a lot of money? And then the questions really start to get asked. But because it was such a high number for a guy who was doing only okay for us in the start of that season, it didn't, it kind of patched over, bandaged it over, and people didn't ask a lot of questions about it. But now I'm feeling with these comments, it's like, if you never thought he was going to get anywhere with us, based on the mentality going on with the team that I guess he's affecting, then damn, we're lucky that Cruz bailed us out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the great point there, I think, that you made. And, I don't think Caleb Wiley was ever one of the
no
problems
way.
here.
His mentality was all whack because of him. Of course, there's no way.
Yeah, especially such a young kid. I don't think he had enough locker room presence. Even though I think it's this, he obviously on the pitch, a dog, a player that absolutely never backed down, even at his young age. I think it's, just something that it's pretty apparent who he's talking about, and I think there's just some umbrage that I hold with it, but we'll keep an eye on it.
And just one other thing is that, just like I said, musing's going on in my head about this, is if, because this was a Carlos pick, and if Garth kind of gave him, this is your last chance, and he kind of gave him an approval of Yorgos, I guess Garth saw his pick and went, okay, we'll give Yorgos a try. That's also a bit of an indictment on Garth's judgment there, and especially if he thought this would be a franchise player, and it just completely fell apart. I mean, I know it was mainly Carlos, and he's out. And this all may be because of that as well. But does Garth have a little bit of do you question a little bit more of his judgment if that's the kind of player he brought in and he thought it would be one way and it was the exact opposite?
Yeah, exactly. It's there's questions abound, and I think it's something that we can dig into further when there are more comments from him. But definitely something to keep an eye on. But moving on from that, Dax McCarty, he joined by his family and his wife Jen. She put out a story saying, when you go from knocking the best player in the world out of the MLS playoffs to dealing with our 2-year-old on a Spirit Airlines flight the next AM, and laughing, crying emoji. But essentially,
I wish I could say I've been there, Dax, but I have not knocked the best player of the world out of a tournament. But I have been on an airplane with a toddler who's 2, and it was a horrific time.
Yeah. And this was a personal flight, not the team charter flight, which of course they do fly those. But the McCartys decided to travel the next day. So people that are holding it against Atlanta United, it has no bearing on them.
He specifically said he chose to do that and specifically chose Spirit of all ones too.
Well, young family. I mean, obviously he's not making absolute riches, playing as an MLS player, but he is making a decent coin. But I get it. 4 tickets, essentially.
He's not taking Air Force One. It's just, it's just a Delta Southwest or something is not going to break the bank, but, okay.
Yeah. Which, I guess when he's not used to paying for flights as well, I mean, most of them are charters. I get it to a degree. But anyway, Brad Guzan, he showed up on Major League Journeyman, like aforementioned Dax McCarty's podcast, where he also hosts it with his co-hosts Alan Gordon, and also of course our former Fox Sports commentator, for some reason is completely drawing a blank. Dan Gargan, there we go. Had to look it up real quick, but of course, on that pod, they went into a lot of different things, and I think there were some really good nuggets. Basically, Brad Guzan pretty much kind of quantifying the madness that he was feeling during that yellow card, or not yellow card, during the incident that wasn't even carded, where Campana shoved him into the net, and he basically felt like he was, after he got shoved into the net, which if anybody's ever played, anytime you get stuck in the net, it's a difficult thing to look graceful doing, is basically trying to get out of it. But he said luckily he was able to turn instead of maybe going face in, which made it easier for him to pretty much like thrust out of it. But it is also, he said he was at a 12 out of a 10 in terms of how mad he was at the very first. Then he got to a 15 after Suarez was up in his face and the ref pretty much was giving it to him. It was kind of hilarious to a degree, because Dax McCarty as well, he was tweeting out that big tree fall hard, and it is like he was mentioning how basically in the hotel room that basically included his kids, his wife, he had to pull a pillow up on the ground, and he was watching the highlights at like 3 or 4 a.m. and laughing hysterically at Brad Guzan not being able to get out of the net very quickly. And so
it's an excellent Wedding Crashers reference. I haven't thought of that scene in many years.
Indeed. Yeah, but Bradley Cooper just killing it in that scene. And I mean, just an infinitely quotable movie. But it is, it's a great episode. Definitely go and watch it. I'm sure many people have already.
And one of my favorite things that came, because they talked about it when they interviewed Brad, the Atlanta United, journalists and everyone were interviewing them in the presser, and Brad was asked about, or Valentino was asked about it rather, and he just made this funny comment where he's just like, "I'm glad Brad is finally out of the net. Like, he's out of the net now. We're all happy he's out of the net." And I was just like, that was a great, like, subtle, sarcastic joke. That was great.
Right, very deadpan and just incredible from Valentino.
He's out of the net now. Everything's good.
And it's also this.
As if people were worried he was still in the net. That's so funny.
Right.
Oh man.
I think what was interesting as well is just kind of a lack of I guess fact checking from pundits across national media, where he was called Brad Guzman, and then Dax was called McCarthy as well. It's just
Guzman is so common. It's so common.
Right. It's also, the autocorrect always makes it Guzman before Guzan, but that's just incredibly lazy. So anyway, moving on from that, Cooper Sanchez and Rodrigo Neri, they've been called up to represent their youth national teams for the November FIFA window as well for the twos. Congrats to them. In terms of this is the sad news, I think, of this week, that Memphis 901 FC, they've been transferred as far as their USL Championship franchise rights to Santa Barbara, and Memphis will not play in 2025. Santa Barbara are to join the USLC in 2026, league approved, and transferred due to no viable stadium solution. And that means our previous head coach, or at least interim head coach, Stephen Glass, he's affected there. And also Emerson Heineman is also affected. And so hopefully they all land on their feet soon, but that is crushing. Memphis 901 obviously knocked us out. And kind of annoying, but definitely still don't want to see that for kind of former staff and players. So definitely, hopefully, with those class acts that they will be able to find something soon. But any thoughts on that? Any of the stuff that...
I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate with what's happened. That clearly is out of Glass and Hyman's control. And I think this is the third team that's been shuttered and or moved in the USL. So it's a kind of a broader discussion about soccer in the United States and what's going on with that. But it's not for really here today or right now. Yeah, I mean, I guess we don't have to worry about them beating us in the Open Cup again.
Again, which is true. But unless Stephen Glass lands at a Southern USL Championship side, we probably won't see him. But and Emerson Hyman too. Yeah, possibly. I don't know. But because also, Luis Fernando, I think, was on that team for a minute. Also, Laurent Kisidou. Just plenty of guys that obviously had played with us previously. But let's move on to the mailbag. And you guys send in these questions through Discord and IG Story. Please continue to do so, and we might answer your question in the future. But first question comes from our highest level Patreon member, Nick in the ATL. He asks, given how the pundits have always picked against us, do you think they'll give us a chance at all versus Orlando, or will it be more of the same?
It's a good question. I think there will be a little bit more behind Atlanta being able, we slayed the God Squad. I think that gives us a little bit more cred. So I think we won't be anywhere as it was against Miami or at the same time we've beaten Orlando fairly recently as well. So I think we actually might get a decent shake when it comes to the betting odds and or what people are predicting us to do in that game. So it definitely won't be kind of like the last 3 or 4 games where we were just, there was no chance, zero chance. You guys are an afterthought at this point. I think we are very much a forethought in this game.
Yeah, I think it's not 10% or even 19%, which I think was what it was for the last match. But I think it's sneaking into maybe 20 and 30% range. Betting odds are still probably against us, but it is one of those. Yeah, if you bet on Atlanta United during these games,
you live life by the edge of your seat.
Exactly. Sir. And you would have been very smart, very, very smart to somehow, predict the future somehow in that sense. Or there is some Back to the Future thing that you came back from, and you have this almanac that, can predict the future. But
it's just amazing imagining this is the thing you go back in time to cash in on instead of taking out stocks in AOL before the .com or anything, or the lottery numbers or something. No, this is the thing you came back for to bet on.
Right. But this would be very good odds to pretty much bet against. That's as lopsided as it gets. And I think you might be arrested if you if you somehow put an insane amount of money on that, because that's where it's how did you know that? I feel like the feds are are gonna come after you if you somehow knew. But anyway, so next question comes from Baz. Can the world's sexiest man pull off another masterclass against Orlando plus more? Just for reference, LA United have put out a sexiest man alive for Brad Guzan, where he's recovered. And I think some people took it literally, where it's no, it's not about that. But your comment had me rolling. It's the government photo where there's the Asian man, and there's one guy who's just wanting to voice his what he would do on the mic, and everyone else is fighting him, and pretty much like, no, you're not allowed to do that. But yeah, and then the club also responded to, which actually, I don't know if you're willing or wanting to describe what was happening there, but I'm not really sure what they meant.
I think they're saying, "Oh no, that's not what we meant." Is probably what they were talking about.
Gotcha.
Maybe, I don't know. Who cares? Either way, it was just a lot of fun, and yeah, follow MW_ATL UTD Fan TV on X, and also now on Blue Sky if you want to see more. Well, the club I don't think is on Blue Sky right now, is it?
The club is not on Blue Sky yet, but
we
maybe
are when they get there. Yeah.
So you can follow for all the news and updates, but
wacky, silly, crazy tweets like that. So.
All right, next question comes from Valentino's Banditos. Love that. What does Rob got to do to prove he is worthy of the job? What do you guys think are the keys to victory? I guess victory of the job. Yeah. What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess this is still my opinion. I think he has to win some kind of silverware, and I'm kind of including Eastern Conference champion as part of that. In terms of being considered for the top job next season, like firmly considered. And it's looking like he has a chance at doing that. Looking pretty good, actually. It's really interesting how things have kind of developed to that. But yeah, I think it has to be something substantial to really overturn the terrible season that we've had. That isn't obviously all on Rob, but the club likely probably just wants to go in a new direction, and looks at this largely as a fluke. And so unless he wins silverware, I think they'll probably consider it just fluky behavior.
Yeah, it's tough because, yeah, I mean, as far as worthy of the job, I think from a man management standpoint, I mean, he's top notch. But it's the tactics that in the regular season you still have to pretty much prove yourself there, and you can't have an entire season where basically you're just dropping points left, right, and center. And it's not that Rob fully was given the absolute keys, and where he had the personnel at his disposal to be able to be absolutely successful. But I think the issue is there's some things where, okay, we can play this way maybe in the regular season as well, but as far as a massive amount of points, this is how we play in a cup competition, but not really, I think, the long haul of a season. That's not how you impose yourself.
This grouping of teams in the playoffs are good teams that want to have the ball and play possession and forward-thinking football, and so our style happens to be very good to match up against that right now because we are playing a lot of counter-attacking. So that during a long season, a lot of teams are not very good in MLS and are going to try and do kind of the same thing. But I don't know if Rob has answers to that. I don't know if a lot of coaches do. It's difficult to grind out games like that. You need special coaches that can do that with special players, obviously. Being on the same page, and we just don't have the information to firmly say whether or not Rob can get that done.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's other aspects of it where, okay, yeah, maybe some people might say, the goalposts are moving. Well, I think that's kind of been the MO the entire season. I mean, listen to what Garth Lagerwey just said. Like that's a goalpost moving if I've ever heard one. So, it really is, I think, ultimately at the end of the day, for the long term of Atlanta United, I'm not completely sold for Valentino quite yet. I agree that maybe it's a trophy. I don't know if it's Eastern Conference trophy for me. I feel like it's kind of MLS Cup final or bust. I think that's where, if he can get us to the MLS Cup final, it's maybe not a trophy, but I feel like that's where the strongest consideration would come from that. Or otherwise, right now, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure he gets the job permanently. But yeah, next question comes from let's see. Well, I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of questions kind of related to this a little bit. And, I mean, Javier Martin 9 asks, does the club even bother bringing in a new manager? I mean, obviously, I think yes.
It depends, yeah.
Yeah, I think yes, as of this moment.
Yeah, the base of probability for me is definitely on new manager still.
Yeah. Next question comes from Hassan Stadi 25. Is the old spirit / culture of the team back?
We're definitely seeing glimpses of it, that's for sure. The only thing that's missing in my estimation, and we see a little bit of it, not as much, is just being able to be dynamic in attack and scary on the front foot. We don't really take it to teams as much like we did when we were very, very scary in 2017 and 18. We're playing kind of almost like almost a little bit. Well, we're not really playing like 2019 because that was just a lot of like possession and build-up that just kind of didn't go very far. And then we'd play very defensive when we get a lead and things like that, winning a lot of 1-0s and things. Yeah, I don't know if we're kind of back to that in terms of our attack. We're scoring a good amount, but a lot of it is coming from counterattacks, which, say what you want, we definitely scored in counterattack situations with the speed of our players in 2017 and 18, but it was only half of the coin. I feel like we're playing half like we did back then. The other half, we really need that number 9, that DP number 9. And then the chemistry with the 10, with Maranchuk, and then maybe a new winger or so, and maybe a little bit of fresh blood in the midfield, and then have that all solidify. Then perhaps I think there's a chance that we could see a little bit more of the other side of that coin, the front-footedness, the taking it to teams, and not just waiting for counterattack situations to hurt them.
Right. It's a great point. I think the team from 2017, 2018 were dynamic in a lot of facets of the game. And yeah, they could kill you not only on the counter, but also in possession if you gave them space, on set pieces as well. I mean, yeah, just various ways that we were able to absolutely just punish you. And I think that's where I would like to see us play protagonist football, and to be that team that definitely imposes themselves onto the opposition. And we're not always just maybe the team that's just has to play Rue 1, which very interesting in the playoffs, but just not really gonna quite cut it within a whole season. But excuse me, guys. Next question comes from Santini IZ423. Is our team looking ahead or going to go one game at a time? I think
it's tricky, right? Because how could you not? How could you not begin to hope and feel, this could be a championship run. Everyone's thinking it, everyone's feeling it. It's probably why you made the question in the beginning. I hope the players they say they are taking it one game at a time. Of course, that is the, standard. That is what you should be doing. That's what everyone knows to do. But it's hard, man, psychologically speaking, for players to keep it on, one game at a time when you're doing such historic and like things that just shouldn't really be happening. Like you kind of feel a little bit of that magic, and it can get you to feel a little it can make you feel a little bit more expansive with your optimism, and that, again, that could be detrimental. I don't know. In their heart of hearts how they actually are feeling, but what they're telling us is that they're taking it game to game, and I hope that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it is that. It's they've been saying they've been playing cup finals for a month, and that does imply that they're looking at it just each game. But it's hard not to look ahead a little bit, like you're saying. And it's like, yeah.
I mean, you just beat Messi. You're like, what can't I do now? Is what I would be thinking if I were them. So like, it's hard. I get it. It's hard not to fantasize a bit. So
yeah. And so hopefully that's where Valentino can center the team and make sure that, yeah, they're not trying to basically look ahead and, you know, get ahead of themselves, which will be vitally important, playing minute to minute essentially. But so yeah, that does it for the mailbag and pretty much the entire episode except for the question of the day. And the question of the day is, does Brad Guzan deserve a statue at the Benz? Let us know in those comments below. Looking forward to what you have to say. But guys, that is the episode there and there. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. That's Michael. I'm AJ. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.